Hello Gopi, welcome to Z Connect.
Thank you very much.
Very nice to have you with us here. We're so honored that you're on our show today and we are getting to exchange a few words with you about the sport. Well, not just one sport, but two sports. First, of course, badminton, because badminton is the most popular sport in India after cricket today. So tell me, Gopi, where do you see Indian badminton today and globally? I mean, do you see PBL reaching the level of an IPL someday?
As a sport, cricket has of course reached phenomenal heights in our country. I'm so very happy that badminton in the last few years has grown tremendously.
Yes.
And I do hope that we achieve a stage where at least 100 badminton players in the country are earning enough to make a life, good life out of the sport. And it's still a long way away from that. And for the moment, I'm just very happy that in the last 10 years or so, the sport has grown tremendously, and lot players have taken up the sport in the last few years.
Tell me, Gopi, what does it take to train champions like Sindhu, like Saina Nehwal? What are the challenges you face and what creates champions like these?
Well, I think it needs an entire ecosystem. We need, of course, the parents who really support the sport. You have kids who want to put in the work. You want role models who are inspirational to their growing up. And also you want an entire ecosystem, whether it's the infrastructure, whether it's the people associate, the coaches, the support staff, whether it's the physios, the trainers, and the people who are administering the sport, people who are running the sport for you, to conduct the right kind of tournaments, to provide them the security if they fail. All of these things are very important for the sport to develop. And we as a nation have grown tremendously, and as a sport we've kind of reached some good levels, and I hope that we continue to prosper in that direction.
Well, as a coach, Saina Nehwal has also said this about you, that you kind of eliminated all the challenges that came in your journey for them, and that's what they owe to you. Tell us, can you throw more light on that?
Well, I think as a player, when I was growing up, there were very fundamental challenges which I faced. When you go to the stadium isn't there to play. When you go to the ground isn't there to run. When you go to the pool, there's no water in the pool. So there were fundamental infrastructure issues which were there. Then there was an issue about coaches. There was an issue about sparring partners and players to play against, or competing in different tournaments internationally, or the right kind of support team at those tournaments. So all of these were challenges which I faced when I was growing up. And when I became a player, after all these things also, I realized was, agar मैं player बन सकता है, तो कोई भी बन सकता है. So that's the kind of intent I had when I started coaching. Right. And I didn't want these to be challenges. Yes. We can have fresh challenges, but at least these fundamental things should
get
not
out of
be
the way.
A challenge. So yes, today we can talk about as physiologist or a psychologist or a biomechanics, but at least the basic infrastructural challenges were taken care of. And the last few years have been phenomenal because we also have a lot more corporate awareness and support, government pushing through and supporting the sport. But the initial years were, yes, a lot of struggle, and I really credit the entire academy for bringing that together, and players like Saina, who started off from the very beginning,
yes,
never had to bother about the fundamentals ever.
That's wonderful. PV Sindhu has also said that you would design training programs, they were like tailor-made for each and every player that were suited for their development and improvement. Tell us more about that.
Well, I think at that level, or even if you're aspiring to be that level, it's very important that each player has to be looked at differently. So somebody who's tall, you would know that they would have these challenges 10 years from now when they play internationally. So at a very young age, I would know, or we would plan about these things. And somebody would think that, okay, somebody is tall, They will have good attacking strokes, so we need to better them
Yes.
and make them into a strong weapon. But they also will be weaker at the areas which are defensive. So we need to ensure that they don't become weaknesses big enough to be exploited to lose the match. So you kind of work on each of those elements from a young age. And it also helps that somebody like me who's played the sport and also has the experience of coaching, you can actually do these things a little more easier. But I think it's only possible because of the willingness of the players to understand and believe and trust you, and also the entire team which comes around, and you're able to build that over time.
Wonderful. My last question to you, can we see badminton growing in this part of the world? Can we, will we ever see the PBL coming to Dubai?
I hope it does. I think that Dubai is a natural extension to India in some ways,
Yes.
because culturally also, and also with the number of expats living here, it is a great place too. There are a couple of Indians, Tanisha and Ravi, who are actually playing for the country from here. So I'm sure they're great role models for younger kids to participate in the sport and be inspired by them. And also, I think because of the weather and because of the reasons of, say, dust or heat, or being indoors, I think the sport inherently has an advantage. And I do believe that sooner or later we will be growing in Dubai as well, and the rest of the Gulf nations.
Wonderful. We hope for that too. Thank you so much for talking to us, Gopi.
Thank you very much.